Okay, so what do you get out of being a little alpha wife? I took some time to write out kind of a list of, I think it's about 20 things that I want you to be cognizant of, I want you to be thinking of, and I want you to be aware of as you start to see these change in your life. But here's what's in this for you. Here is why you should consider taking more time to really explore this and seeing if this is something that can level up yours and your husband's sex life, marriage, day to day life, how you guys fight, how you come back from fighting, how you have a relationship that people look at and are like, that is the kind of relationship that I want. And most importantly, the kind of relationship that your kids grow up to desire. We all have seen those things about how your little girl will marry her dad, and your little boy will often look for the wife that you are as a mom, or some similarities. So, and we all know no matter what, our kids are going to figure us out. So, how can we have a relationship that not only endures all of those things, including kids, because that's tough, especially in certain parts of it, but also endures the different seasons of life? So, here is my 20 reasons why I think you should consider the little alpha wife and the things I want you to be cognizant of as you continue to explore this. So, first and foremost, this is a community for you to have a safe place to explore. Explore you, explore womanhood, explore parenthood, and let's talk about some of those things that not other people are talking about, and let's share those things that we all find, right? Let's double down on each other's time. Second reason, let's build a community. Let's build a community of forward thinking, driven, and successful women that are moving it forward, not sitting back doing nothing. I want you to have that teenage type of love with your husband and your partner in this life. That crazy first time feeling of love, no matter how many times you've been in love or how long you've been in love with your husband, having that with him. I want you to be able to create a environment and mindset that allows you to heal from trauma, release trauma, whether it's big T trauma or little t trauma, an environment where you can, and within yourself, you can experience some of that release and tapping into that. So that way, not only with that release comes patching up some of those little holes in our bucket, it allows us to take on more authenticity. That this will create an environment between you and your husband of authenticity that is next level, and it will give you an opportunity and an environment for you to let your hair all the way down with your closest person. And maybe you have, but is there another level of authenticity that you could explore with him? Vulnerability. So, a little bit similar to authenticity, being able to be vulnerable and having some fighting tactics of being able to tap into that vulnerability in those moments and be able to restore yourselves from disagreements much faster. And doing that in a way that also creates some steam in the bedroom. Next one, innocence, giving you an environment to tap into your innocence. And although at surface we wouldn't really think that that's a way of releasing trauma and healing from it, but for me it has been, in tapping into that innocence of myself and going back and healing a little bit of that little girl in me, and being able to figure out how to kind of grow past some of those things, not with strength but with softness. And I think that's where the innocence and kind of tapping into my innocence and giving some forgiveness to myself has allowed me to release some trauma by way of tapping into that soft side of me. For a couple decades, I went really, really hard, only gas, no brake. And it wasn't until I had some serious, serious health signs that I stopped and started to look at it. And then it was years of unwinding and then years of building it back up. And I think at this point, I've been on this journey for about 8 years. But yeah, tapping into that innocence of me and being able to go back and just forgive things that have happened to me that had nothing to do with my actions, going back and being able to kind of just forgive the things that I did do, even, in my early 20s or in my teens or whatever, and offering some understanding to my parents and my siblings and those who have wronged me, and by tapping into that softer and gentler part of me. So I just I encourage you to be conscious of that as we go on this journey. If you start to see some of those same things happen with you, and I'd love for you to DM me and tell me, or share it in the community if it's something that you're comfortable sharing. The next one is sensitivity. When we are married to an alpha male, it's breathtaking when they are incredibly sensitive with us. And I guess all of this is correlated, but when they're super sensitive with us, we get to experience the feeling of innocence. And when we get to experience that feeling of being pure and being innocent and completely forgiven or completely understood or completely seen by our husbands, it's incredible. And that's part of how, in my relationship specifically with my husband, me having that alter universe of me being able to kind of just tap into that softest, gentlest person of me, and it encourages my husband to be sensitive with me, which then I get innocence out of, and I get pleasure out of, and I get safety out of. So it ends up being correlated to one another. But when I can fan that little flame in a quick moment and he becomes sensitive to me, my nervous system relaxes, my cortisol drops, and I get to feel, um, again, innocent. And it is really restorative and allows me to, you know, go from all gas to some brake. Next one, optimistic, is another emotion that I have experienced out of this, where my husband has a tattoo on his leg that points towards him. And since it points towards him, when we're sitting, if I'm sitting next to him, it also points to me, and it says, the struggle ends when the gratitude begins. And we can't be pissed off, angry, and grateful at the same time. And so, just in those moments of being able to be innocent, and when he's sensitive with me, and if I can encourage that, or if he can encourage that in a split second, the feeling of gratitude comes right back, and comes, or with gratitude comes, optimism. And again, there's just some of these underlying things that, when our relationship with our husband, and we know no matter what, we are protected on that end, and we are protecting him as his wife on this end, the strength and the power and the confidence that it strokes within you, it's unbearable. No, I'm kidding. It's amazing. It's a lot. So be careful, because you're gonna, it can be explosive. And I guess that's a perfect segue into the next one that I have written down here for you, and that's confidence. I've never felt as confident as I do in any relationship as I do with my husband because of this. We have so many different little things within our relationship, and I'm going to teach you all of them. So many different little things in the relationship that allow him to neutralize me pretty quickly, me to neutralize him pretty quickly, and us to be able to go. And we are both high powered, we are both alphas, we are both go-getters, we are both intense, we're both super driven. And we have to have an equal counterbalance to that. We have to have an equal level of sensitivity and optimism and vulnerability and authenticity to create that confidence within one another, or the other one's just going to always like trump over the other, and that's never healthy. That always leads to resentment and other issues and frustration, of course, and then you start to drift apart, and then of course you usually end up separating or submitting to a life that is not full and not as healthy as you would want to be in a relationship. All right. With that confidence in this, oh, well, actually, let's stay on confidence for another moment. The other part of that is the confidence that it has given me within my body and within some of the things about being a woman. Womanhood is graphic, right? So many things are graphic. Birthing our children It's graphic. Being in the state of postpartum for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, depends, right? Depends on lots of factors. It's graphic. Our monthly cycle, it's graphic. Our hormones changing, they're graphic. Our husband sees all of that. And if we're not sharing all of that and experiencing all of that with our husbands, we're missing out. We're missing out on an opportunity of really knowing like we have our person. And I've been in relationships where that isn't the case. And when we have that and we have that confidence because of how strong your guys' bond is and how open you guys are to one another, it changes things. It changes things a lot. And it gives you confidence to accept and to love your body the way that it is, the changes of your body the way that it is. When you know that your husband loves you, the parts of you that are motherhood, the parts of you that are his wife, the parts of you that are his super gentle little wife that he just sees as the one that he protects, also sees you as that strong powerful wife out in the world taking on things. When he sees that, and when you guys have that as an open conversation, um, not only do you get a sense of confidence, but you get a sense of trust within yourself, and you get a sense of peace within yourself. And with that comes more motivation, more intention, more confidence to go and take on more next level things. All right, next one that I've got written down here for you is stability. And I'm not talking about the initial things that might come to mind with stability, with, your home or your car or your job or anything along those lines. Talking about emotional stability and being able to have the highs and the lows that happen throughout the days as we run busy families and as we run busy careers and as we're in this, 30s and 40s and maybe our 50s, maybe our late 20s, but as we're in those seasons of life, that emotional stability within your relationship where you're not going through big periods of time of being frustrated with each other or upset with one another or those tough seasons. And when we can really see each other and we can really understand one another and talk with one another, and as the way that I will be teaching you here is creating an alter universe for you and your husband, it creates an emotional stability. And I think when we have the emotional stability, we have the rest. We have the environment and the raw material to have stability within the rest. When that's not stable, it's really hard to stabilize the rest of the things. We either need to allow that to dissipate so we can stabilize the other things. But if we happen to be in that season of our lives right now where that portion of our life is stable, it creates that emotional stability or a place for you to have that emotional stability. Of course, we need to create it, but it creates that place for us to have that emotional stability, and that leads into many other areas of stability. This one's a little bit different than some of the ones that we've talked about, but becoming that infinite fan of one another and never seeing a finish line in how much of a fan you could be of your husband or your husband of you. And this is something that we want to say constantly. And as you start saying these to your husband, he's going to start saying these to you. But believing in one another and being that number one fan for each other, the amount of confidence that that brings and authenticity, and again, that safe place where you know that you can play all out, you can be the rawest, realest version of yourself, and know that he is your infinite fan. And again, never seeing that as a finish line that never finishes. Um, yeah, it's just, I think it's as simple as that. And it is a matter of, again, saying those things over and over and watching for them, right? If we see and we watch for those little aspects of our husbands we're grateful for and we call them out and we say them, we are creating an environment where he is going to continue to do those things. If what he hears from us is just it's never enjoyable. Nobody wants that in their life, us included. But if it is a matter of us pointing those things out, he's going to start pointing those things out to us too. And when we know that we're out there championing our lives and he sees it and he's fanning that flame, the flame gets bigger on both sides. But I am an infinite fan of my husband. He is an infinite fan of me. He tells me all of the time. I tell him all of the time. And I watch for those moments and I'm conscious of those moments to bring those out to him. Sometimes even just sending him a video. I sent him one today to tell him those things. And yeah, there's lots of things that he and I do that no one else ever will know about. And he knows that no one else will ever know about that. And think about how sacred that becomes and how many things that gets to be over the years. And how, you just remain the apple of the eye of your husband's eye. All right, friends. Now, we know this, and when we ask those 50, 60, 70-year-old marriages what has been one of the attributions of you guys being successful in such a long marriage, and it often people will say, she was my friend or he was my friend. And this kind of goes back to being their infinite fan. Our best friend is typically our infinite fan also, right? Or our parents, or maybe a sibling, or someone else that we hold dear in our lives. And when you know that you are your husband's best friend and he is your best friend, and you can laugh and you can be super real and super raw with one another like you are in your deepest friendships, again, things go next level. Now, talking a little bit more about kind of bringing this back into the community, and I want to close with this. Um, us having a little bit of that here too. Now it's going to be different, right? This is an environment where we're probably not going to get to know one another super closely, where we are going to kind of be pilfering, encouragement and ideas and information from each other. But my hope is that we can all lean into this community and pick up a little bit off of it. As the saying goes, many hands makes light work. We're all going through similar things, although they are very different. They're probably still similar, right? Good, bad, tough, strong, all of the things in between. But if we can lean into that and the coaching that is here within this community, we're all going to win. So, that is a little bit of what I would like you to be conscious of or cognizant of as you are in the community. That is what I would like you to get out of the information that I share with you, and that is what is in it for you. So I encourage you to stay here for more, get everything out of this community that you can, breathe that into your marriage, have some incredibly hot engagements with your husband that you adore wildly, continue to be the apple of his eye, continue to just blow him away, and create that environment that your kids grow up saying that, I want to love my wife like my dad loved my mom, or I want to love my husband like my mom loved my dad. And when we can create that for our children, or maybe our nieces or nephews, or maybe our friends as kids, or maybe even our friends, we might inspire the world to just have, one more layer of authenticity. Now, again, I do realize that that's not the season of life that we're all always in. And if that's not the season of life that you're in, I do offer sympathy for that. I do offer understanding and encouragement that you keep pushing until you do have that, and fight for it. It's worth the fight. It's worth the perseverance and getting there and finding that person that is for you. With that, sending love to you all, and let's keep going. Bye for now.